Revenge with Karen.
I said, "Move, lady Jesus, are you deaf and useless?" That's what greeted me my first day back from leave. Not a welcome back, not a how are you holding up. Just Tessa, standing spread eagle in front of the office's main entrance like she was guarding the Ark of the Covenant, arguing with someone on speakerphone and chain-chomping gum like she was auditioning for a Real Housewives spinoff. She didn't see me walk up. Maybe she did, and just figured I was beneath acknowledgement. Either way, I stood there for 3 full minutes, waiting in the morning chill, holding a to-go cup from a gas station because my favorite cafe had shut down while I was gone. Felt symbolic. My mom had died 3 months ago. The kind of cancer that doesn't linger, just shows up and shreds everything. In the middle of that storm, the company had quietly bumped me up from director to chief strategy officer. CEO texted me the morning of her funeral. "Take all the time you need. We'll be here when you're ready." Kind of sweet, kind of cold, but I appreciated it. I'd given 10 years to that place, made other people look good, built things behind the scenes, never made noise, so I didn't announce my return. No email blast, no LinkedIn post. Just showed up on a gray Thursday morning, wearing the same coat I wore to Mom's hospice visits, the badge that now reads CSO. "Excuse me," I said, "can I get by?" Tessa turned, sunglasses on like she was famous, phone still on speaker. Do you mind? I'm in the middle of something important. You're blocking the door," she scoffed. "Do you even work here? Do you know who I am?" I took a sip of my coffee. "Yeah," I said calmly. "And by the way, I'm your boss now," she laughed. Like real tears in her eyes laughter. "Oh my God, that's adorable. Craig hire you for the front desk? You don't look C-suite." Then she pressed something on her phone and barked, "Security." "Yeah, I have someone trying to force their way in. Harassing me, says she's my boss. No, I don't recognize her. She's wearing some sad trench coat." There it was. The surreal absurdity of grief colliding with the madness of office politics. I should have been angry. Instead, I just blinked. All the fire in my chest from the past 3 months evaporated into something colder, something quieter. I pulled my badge off my lanyard and held it up to the security camera. The doors clicked open and I walked in. She was still screaming into the void behind me, calling me a stalker. "Oh, and while you're here, if you're one of the 95% who listens but hasn't subscribed yet, maybe hit that button. Toss us a like too. Helps more than you know and keeps the team from resorting to vending machine dinners." Anyway, I didn't use the lobby elevator. I took the service lift up to the 3rd floor, let Tessa feel like she won something. The CEO was already in his office when I arrived. He didn't seem surprised. Just stood up, gave me a hug that was more human than corporate, and said, "She did what?" I shrugged. "Not worth a fight. Yet." He nodded slowly and gestured for me to sit. "Handle it however you see fit. No committee, no pep talk, just carte blanche in a folder marked 'Welcome back.'" As I stepped out into the hallway and began walking past the cubicles, I saw it. The fear. People averted their eyes. A junior analyst looked like he was about to melt into his rolling chair. One whispered as I passed, "Tessa said you were, like, an intern or something." A culture like that doesn't build itself overnight. It festers, flourishes under lazy middle management and unchecked egos. And Tessa? She was the queen bee of rot. I saw it immediately. She turned the entire department into her kingdom. Every raised eyebrow, every pointed joke, every Slack message sent in lowercase to infantilize someone, it was her signature. And instead of blowing it up that morning, I did what I do best. I watched. I noted. I let her dance. She thought calling security was the punchline, but I was just setting the stage. 2 security guards waddled up like mall cops late to a food court brawl, one clutching a clipboard, the other tapping at a phone like it might explode. Tessa stood there flailing her arms like she'd just caught me smuggling stolen staplers and corporate secrets in my purse. "That's her," she shouted, pointing at me like she was casting me out of Eden. "She tried to push me. She's not authorized, and I don't feel safe." God bless them, the guards didn't even get their eyebrows up before I calmly held out my badge. The taller one squinted, looked down at it, and tilted his head like a confused golden retriever. "CSO," I nodded. "Emily Holt, Chief Strategy Officer. I'm returning from approved leave." The other one glanced at Tessa, then back at me. "You're that Emily?" I smiled without smiling. "Yup, that one." To their credit, they didn't waste time. The clipboard was tucked, the phone pocketed. "Sorry about that, ma'am. We weren't informed. This won't happen again." "No problem," I said, stepping aside. "Can you ask her to keep the door clear next time?" They turned to Tessa, who immediately backpedaled. Wait, you're telling me she's actually someone?" That badge could be fake. I've seen fakes. And she didn't say she was the CSO. I did, I said, voice flat. You were too busy screaming at your phone. And with that, I turned, walked around the crowd forming near reception, and slipped into the side entrance elevator like a ghost that had seen it all before. The doors closed on her voice, shrieking something about forgeries and protocol and entitled interns. I didn't feel anger. I felt cataloged, like every second of that scene was a bullet point for later use. The ride up was quiet, just me and my reflection in the scratched steel elevator wall. Same tired face, same circles under my eyes, but something behind them had shifted. I wasn't coming back to rebuild what I'd left. I was here to fix what had been festering while I was gone. Upstairs, the CEO stood waiting. Jason always looked like someone who was accidentally good at his job, lanky, overdressed, hair never quite dry, but today he looked older. He reached for a handshake, thought better of it, and just gave me a nod. That was unexpected. Took the seat across from his desk. She called security on me. He rubbed his temples. She calls security on delivery drivers who wear Crocs. I blinked. She said they were inappropriate for a professional environment. It was 7 a.m. The guy was bringing bagels. I chuckled once. Why is she still here? Jason leaned back, hands steepled under his chin. Honestly, middle management, black hole. No one ever had enough documented cause. The team's scared of her. Char swamped. And to be blunt, she makes noise, but her numbers were solid. Until recently. And now, he slid a manila folder across the desk. Light, almost empty. One informal complaint, a couple of Slack transcripts, some rumors, nothing we can act on. I tapped the folder. Then I'll build something we can act on. Jason looked at me for a long beat. You want the green light? I don't want it. I already have it. He nodded once. Handle it however you see fit. Just like that, the walls were mine. As I walked out of his office, I didn't feel victorious. This wasn't a win. It was a window. And Tessa had just thrown a cinder block through it with her bare hands. I passed her in the hallway an hour later. She pretended not to see me. Or maybe her ego didn't allow the possibility of my survival. Didn't matter. She was already a story being written. The only question was how long she'd take to finish the ending herself. The observation began immediately. I paid attention to everything, how long people lingered near her desk, who tensed when she entered the break room, how many jokes ended in nervous laughter. My grief had left me raw, but in that rawness I found clarity. I didn't need to shout. I didn't need revenge. I needed proof. And Tessa, bless her loud, oblivious heart, was going to give it to me. One violation at a time. Walking the floor felt like stepping into someone else's dream, except the dream was set in a haunted call center and smelled like burnt K-cups and passive aggression. The silence wasn't peaceful. It was clinical, staged. Eyes flicked toward me, then snapped back to monitors like they'd seen a ghost. No casual chatter, no water cooler nonsense. Just the faint tap-tap-tap of people working too hard not to be noticed. I passed by a cluster of interns near the printers. One of them, skinny kid, couldn't have been older than 22, accidentally caught my eye. He flinched like I'd raised a hand to him. Then, in a whisper so thin it almost broke apart in the air, he muttered, "She said you were an intern just filling in." I didn't react, just kept walking. That told me more than any org chart could. Tessa hadn't just played house while I was gone. She'd staged a coup, built herself a kingdom out of fear and recycled Excel templates. Everyone else had been too underpaid or overwhelmed to notice or care. I started a new note on my phone. Day 1, general atmosphere eyes down. Slack channels unusually quiet. 0 smiles. One employee visibly trembled near Tessa's cubicle. High potential for psychological manipulation, plus retaliatory behavior. I didn't schedule an all hands. I didn't send a CSO's back memo. I wanted to see the system in motion, how she kept it running without lifting a finger. By noon, I had my first clue. I was supposed to be on a sync call with product leads from 2 departments. Meeting mysteriously vanished from my calendar. When I asked the coordinator, different guy, jittery, he said, "Oh, Tessa said you canceled." I didn't. He nodded like someone watching a train wreck from the tracks. Yeah, that's what I figured. Slack pinged. Tessa, don't worry about the strategy sync. CSO didn't seem prepared. Thought we'd spare her the embarrassment. I didn't respond. I just took another note. A few hours later, a memo I'd approved to be sent company-wide hadn't gone out. I checked the communications folder. It had been moved to draft hold for review. By who? Tessa. The change log had her initials stamped like a cockroach's footprint, bold and unapologetic. Then came the kicker. a message in a private Slack channel I wasn't supposed to see. One of the newer engineers had added me by accident. In it, Tessa had posted a meme of Cruella de Vil photoshopped over my company headshot with the caption, "New CSO got that villain arc energy. Bet she sleeps in a coffin full of unpaid invoices." Half a dozen laughing emojis. Another message, "She'll be gone by Q3. Trust." Someone replied, "She's still grieving, give her a break." Tessa, that's not grief. That's just poor fashion and worse posture. I didn't flinch. I didn't message HR. I didn't message her. I took screenshots, dated them, moved on. At 4:15 p.m., I scheduled a private chat with HR. The director, Meredith, looked like she'd been waiting to die since 2006. Her eyes darted to the walls, to her mug, to a mysterious spot on the floor that probably had stories. When I brought up the Slack channel, the ghosted meetings, the memo interception, she winced but didn't look shocked. "I've had complaints," she admitted, dragging the word out like chewing gum stuck to a shoe. "How many?" She pulled up a spreadsheet. I counted 3 names I recognized, employees who'd quietly vanished in the last 6 months. One had left 2 weeks after I went on leave. What happened to the complaints? Meredith's face scrunched like she bit into a lemon. They were addressed informally. The team was under a lot of pressure. Tessa handled several key workflows. Couldn't afford the churn. You mean HR couldn't afford to stand up to her? I mean, we were told not to escalate unless there was a legal risk. By who? Silence. My phone buzzed. Another Slack ping. Tessa again. "Tessa, reminder that department updates go through me first, CSO or not. Let's keep process tight, kiss mark." I looked back at Meredith. "I'm building a file." She blinked. "You mean like a formal report?" "I mean a goddamn case. With dates. Logs. Statements. When it's done, there won't be a single line HR can dance around." Meredith swallowed hard. "Are you documenting for performance improvement or termination?" I said flatly. She hesitated. "You'll need strong evidence. Patterned behavior. Escalation." I stood. "She's giving me that already. I'm just giving her the space to finish painting the picture." As I walked out of HR, I passed Tessa in the hallway. She didn't acknowledge me, didn't even glance, just stood near the copy machine, laughing loudly into her phone about someone not understanding boundaries. I added one last note to my phone before I called it a day. Day 1, evening. Queen Tessa still reigns. Not for long. There's a specific kind of silence you only hear in an HR records room, like dust remembering things the company hoped would stay buried. I spent 2 hours in there, lights humming overhead, flicking through personnel files with surgical focus. Nothing fancy. Just the cold, quiet paper trail of a rot that everyone saw but no one dealt with. 3 names, 3 complaints, all marked resolved informally, each one followed by a resignation within 3 months. Informally, of course, is corporate for we shrugged and hoped they'd go away quietly. One complaint was a written statement from a junior copywriter. "Tessa routinely overrides my calendar, removes me from meetings, calls me sweetheart or slowpoke in front of senior staff." Noted. Another, from a now-departed project manager. "Tessa cancels deliverables last minute and blames us when goals aren't met. No one wants to push back. She implies our jobs depend on her approval." Filed under team misalignment. The third was an anonymous email, likely from someone in marketing, scribing a pattern of Tessa sending correction emails at 2 a.m. and CCing senior management on every single one. She doesn't lead, she punishes. I took copies, digital, dated, labeled. The next morning, I reached out to 2 of the former employees, one through LinkedIn, one through a mutual friend still at the company. They weren't surprised. The first, Sarah, picked up my call with a tired laugh. "Let me guess, Tessa's still pretending to be the company's North Star. Kept it neutral. We're doing some internal culture reviews." "Good luck with that," she muttered. "She's a gatekeeping tyrant in designer knockoffs. She acts like promotions go through her." The only reason I didn't file a second complaint was because I didn't want to burn bridges. I asked her if she'd be willing to put anything in writing. She paused. "Depends. Are you serious about taking her down? I'm documenting. That's all I'll say." Another beat. Then, "I'll send you what I have. Just don't let her know my name came up." The other ex-employee, Daniel, didn't say much, but he sent me a file. Screenshots of Tessa removing him from projects, reassigning his tasks without discussion, and a Slack thread where she called his PTO request a cute little tantrum. Back in the office, I started watching Slack like it was cable TV. Not the obvious threads. Tessa knew better than to be reckless in public channels. But the tone, the timing, the patterns had a way of liking someone's mistake after it got corrected. She used reaction emojis like scalpels, clapping hands on a missed deadline, face with rolling eyes on a corrected line of code, even nail polish when someone asked a basic question. Passive-aggressive symphonies played in low tones, while HR snored with their heads on a pillow made of plausible deniability. And the DMs. People started forwarding things to me unprompted. A whisper network waking up. One read, your ideas are cute, but let the big dogs handle it. Another, you're on thin ice. I'd watch the tone in your emails, just a heads-up smiling face with smiling eyes. She even had a favorite insult, slow burners. That's what she called anyone who didn't immediately get her way of doing things. Then came the hallway moment. I was walking past the break room, low heels, neutral blouse, clipboard in hand, when I saw her leaning against the vending machine, holding a Red Bull like it was a fine wine, whispering to some poor data analyst who looked 2 seconds from faking a seizure to escape. Tessa said, just watch how long she lasts. They always crumble when they realize this place runs on my rhythm. I didn't stop, didn't turn, just added another note to my mental ledger. She really thought this was still her house. Thing is, grief sharpens the blade you'd been too afraid to use. After watching your mother waste away in a hospice bed, skin drawn over bones, heart still stubbornly pumping while everything else gave up, you stop fearing petty tyrants. You start seeing them for what they are, meat in suits, mouths with office keys. My mother had taught me a lot about quiet strength, about how the ones who talk the most usually fall the hardest. Tessa was all talk. My fire had gone inward. It wasn't rage anymore. It was fuel. I wasn't in a hurry, because she was still handing me everything I needed, one smirk, one Slack ping, one snide hallway whisper at a time. By the end of week 2, I had a folder thick enough to drop jaws and snap necks. I named it Project Echo because every email, every DM, every toxic breadcrumb Tessa left behind was an echo of the same pattern. Control through chaos. A little intimidation here, a small humiliation there. Nothing nuclear, just sustained psychological warfare at a level HR liked to call interpersonal tension. I called it what it was, sanctioned abuse. I wasn't just looking for a smoking gun. I was building a goddamn firing squad. Every piece of evidence was tagged and color-coded. Slack logs showing her mocking interns, yellow. Calendar edits where she removed people from meetings or rescheduled them without notice, red. The little things, like using lowercase to undercut someone's name in meeting notes or typing after someone's question in chat to imply incompetence. Blue. The woman weaponized punctuation like it was medieval dentistry. But then I found the body blow. It came from a scheduling audit. Just a routine comparison of department-wide coverage over the past 3 months, cross-referenced with PTO requests. I didn't expect fireworks, just maybe another memo she'd quietly buried. Instead, I found a record from an employee named Zoe, mid-level marketing associate, barely 24. She'd requested a day off 6 weeks ago. The reason listed in her HR form, family funeral, denied. I dug deeper. Turns out Zoe had been approved by her direct supervisor. But the calendar system showed a manual override the day before, initiated by Tessa, forcing Zoe into a coverage slot for a client pitch that never happened. The kicker? There were 3 other team members available that day, all with lighter workloads, all untouched. Zoe took the meeting. Her uncle was buried without her. She didn't complain, probably because people like Tessa taught folks like Zoe that standing up for yourself meant becoming a target. I called Zoe in, kept it soft, casual. She looked down the whole time. I didn't want to make waves, she said. Tessa said if I left the team hanging, I might not get invited to the next product cycle. That wasn't her decision to make. She shrugged, like she'd already buried the anger along with her uncle. She said it was above her pay grade, but she was doing me a favor. Said I'd thank her later. I added the incident to the file. Tag, read. That afternoon, I scheduled a meeting with legal. The firm's internal counsel, Vincent, was a stiff-collared ex-litigator who blinked twice as often as he spoke. I laid the file on the table like it was a sacred text. He didn't open it at first, just rested his hands on the cover and asked, "Are you documenting for performance improvement or termination?" I met his stare. "I just need her to show everyone exactly who she is, on record." Vincent gave the slightest nod, then opened the file. 10 minutes later, he looked up. This would justify a formal PIP. "Not yet," I said. "Give her rope." "She's still tying the knot." He raised an eyebrow. "What are you planning?" "Nothing cruel," I said. "Just clarity." The meeting ended with Vincent marking the file for preliminary review pending escalation. which in legal speak means we won't touch this until the fire gets warm enough to burn our chairs. Perfect, because Tessa wasn't done dancing. That night, I composed an email. Short, direct, CC'd HR, CC'd her manager. Subject line, asset reallocation proposal, immediate feedback required. I assigned her a review task with a 3-day turnaround. It wasn't busy work. It was surgical, something she couldn't ignore, couldn't pawn off, and couldn't finish without showing her fangs. The file was clean. The instructions were clear, the deadline reasonable. Then I sat back and waited, not for failure, but for her to be herself, because the smartest move I ever made was realizing I didn't have to trap Tessa. All I had to do was give her the stage and let her set herself on fire. The reply came at 9:17 a.m. on the dot, exactly 17 minutes after Tessa would have opened her inbox, sipped half a protein shake, and decided that basic decency wasn't on the menu today. Her response wasn't just sarcastic, it was dripping in the kind of smug contempt you only find in people who think gravity doesn't apply to them. Her email subject line, another one face with rolling eyes. The body read, appreciate the assignment, but not sure why the CSO needs my input if she's so qualified. If this is part of the new micromanagement initiative, should we all just send our resumes directly to her now? Lol. Best of luck. CC'd, department heads, on board advisor, and because hell hath no fury like an insecure queen, HR. It was a move so brazen it almost felt like performance art, a Mona Lisa of unprofessionalism. I stared at it for 10 full seconds before I exhaled and added a new note to the file. 9:17 a.m., sarcastic refusal of directive, CC'd leadership. My phone buzzed 10 minutes later. Meredith from HR. Her voice was tight, brittle. You want to issue a formal write-up for that? I leaned back in my chair and smiled. No, she paused. No, she'll give us something better. It didn't take long. By lunch, the meeting I'd scheduled for the following day, an interdepartmental alignment session with product, marketing, and finance, was gone from half the participants' calendars. Not rescheduled, not shifted, just gone. I checked the permissions log. Tessa had revoked access and reassigned it as redundant. No communication, no explanation, just a digital hit job. Then came the Slack message. In a side channel called #Ideas and Coffee, mostly used by middle managers trying to sound creative, Tessa dropped a post at 12:43 p.m. Can someone please explain to me what our new CSO does besides host imaginary meetings and send cryptic tasks? Maybe it's avant-garde strategy. We're all just not on her plane of genius yet. Laugh reacts. A few eye rolls. One brave soul commented, yikes, ballsy. Ballsy wasn't the word, it was suicidal, especially since she left the channel public. HR flagged it immediately. I got the screenshot by 1:02. Meredith messaged again, we're ready if you are. I typed a single line. Initiate full review. That phrase in HR land is code for open the doors, check every drawer, and prepare the coffin. Legal got looped. Internal systems were tapped for all calendar edits, Slack messages, meeting logs, and direct reports going back 90 days. I didn't have to push. Once you hit full review, the machine turns on by itself. The same machine Tessa thought she ran. She'd been sloppy, too confident. Every memo she intercepted, every intern she gaslit, every LOL typed with venom, it was all about to be compiled into a portrait she painted herself. One email at a time. Here's the thing, none of it was nuclear. No HR violations that screamed lawsuit. No threats, just a pattern. A consistent, grinding erosion of respect and process and basic humanity. The kind of pattern that, once seen, can't be unseen. I didn't dance. I didn't celebrate. I just updated the file. 1:30 p.m., evidence threshold met, review active, outcome inevitable. That night, I walked past her desk on my way out. She didn't look up, just clicked away at her mouse like she was designing her next petty kingdom in Canva. She had no idea the floor beneath her had already cracked, and I wasn't going to warn her. I was going to let her smirk all weekend, let her post, let her whisper, because by Monday morning, the echo chamber she built was going to collapse, and she'd hear her own voice bouncing off the rubble. Friday morning, the break room smelled like scorched toast and desperation. I walked in for coffee decaf, because I'd had enough adrenaline this month to run a small town, and there she was. Center stage, leant back against the counter like it was her living room, holding court with 2 junior managers and a designer who clearly wished he'd taken a different route to the fridge. Oh look, she said, not even pretending to whisper. The C-suite cosplay is here. Are we doing a TED Talk today or just another round of performance theater? He didn't look at me when she said it. Just loud enough for the room to freeze. I poured my coffee. Calm hands, steady breath, let her talk. The junior managers chuckled nervously. One said, "Come on, Tessa," but she cut him off with a wave of her hand, still smiling like a queen sipping from a solo cup. "I'm just saying," she added, "I didn't realize strategy meant micromanaging department heads like she's auditioning for Undercover Boss. Passive-aggressive edition." I stirred in one sugar packet, didn't flinch. Just looked her dead in the eye and said, "Enjoy your weekend." She blinked, didn't know what to do with that. Smirk faltered only for a second. Then she went right back to it, "Sure. Maybe I'll finally have time to read all those visionary emails you send." I left her there, mid-cackle, still assuming she was invincible. 2 hours later, HR got the voicemail. Tessa, voice syrupy with fake concern, opened with, "Hi, Meredith. Wanted to formally lodge a complaint regarding Emily Holt, our CSO." A pause, a fake sigh. Her attitude toward me has been increasingly hostile. I felt undermined, surveilled, and excluded from key processes. I've tried to be cooperative, but she's clearly targeting me. She wrapped it with, "I just don't think someone still grieving should be making executive decisions." It's unhealthy for everyone. Message made it to my inbox with the subject line, "Next steps." I didn't type a paragraph, just one sentence. "Please refer to her contract, Section 4, subsection B." Meredith pulled it. Legal confirmed it. There it was, in plain corporatis. Any act of deliberate obstruction, disrespect, or sabotage toward executive leadership is grounds for immediate termination. No written warning required. Tessa had unknowingly tripped that wire so many times. I'd as well have been a jump rope. Between her sarcastic reply to my assignment, her slack mockery, the meeting sabotage, and now the recorded voicemail, the clause didn't just apply. It screamed. Legal started the draft paperwork. HR began assembling the timeline. They called it a compliance-based termination package, but we all knew what it really was, a final chapter. I reviewed the folder that afternoon in a glass-walled conference room. Nobody disturbed me. No one dared knock. The office had already begun to shift, the way an animal packs senses when the alpha's been marked. As I initialed the final form, Meredith asked softly, "Should we call her in now?" I shook my head. "No," I said. "Wait until Monday morning." She raised an eyebrow. "Why not finish it today? Let her have the weekend. Let her run her mouth. Let her feel untouchable." It wasn't about cruelty. It was about clarity. Monday would hit harder when the sky fell after 2 full days of sunshine. Back at my desk, I sipped the same cup of coffee I'd poured that morning. Still lukewarm, still bitter. I watched her through the glass as she walked by, still laughing with someone, tossing her hair like the queen of a crumbling empire. She paused once, sensing eyes on her, then looked away fast when she caught mine. She didn't know yet, but her kingdom was already ash. All I had to do was wait for her to breathe it in. Monday morning hit with that eerie calm you only get before something breaks. The air had weight to it. A hush under the fluorescent lights, like the building itself knew what was about to happen. You could feel it in the way people clicked their mice slower, the way coffee cups lingered a little longer on lips, the way everyone avoided looking directly at HR's glass door like it was a church confessional. At exactly 8:58 a.m. Tessa strolled in late, naturally, with a venti something in one hand and her phone in the other, tapping away with the ease of someone who still believed the world rotated around her perfectly manicured fingernail. She breezed past the reception desk, past the break room, through the open floor like Moses parting a sea of passive dread. Her expression, smug, untouched. She wasn't just confident, she was untouchable in her own mind. "Morning, peasants," she joked to a developer by the printer. He forced a chuckle, then immediately messaged me a sad face emoji. When HR pinged her, "Please come to conference room C," she didn't even flinch. Just rolled her eyes and typed out a Slack update in the public thread. Guess the C-suite's got another performance review. Hope they practiced their tough faces face blowing a kiss. She sipped her drink like it was champagne. Inside the conference room, the lights were too bright. Meredith sat at the head of the table, Vincent from legal at her side, a single sheet of paper waiting between them. No stack, no folder, just the kill shot. Tessa sank into the chair like it belonged to her. Legs crossed, sunglasses still on. She didn't say hi. Meredith slid the page forward, neat margins. One line circled in red ink like a teacher marking a failing student's essay. Tessa read it, once, twice. The smirk cracked, faltered. Eyes darted between the names at the top, hers, mine. the department heads she'd mocked just last week. Her mouth opened. But I didn't know, she started, voice suddenly a few shades smaller. Vincent didn't even blink. That's not a defense. Silence. She looked at Meredith like she expected mercy. Found none. This is effective immediately, Meredith said. You have 15 minutes to collect your personal belongings. Your system's access has been disabled. Tessa stared. Coffee forgotten. Breath short. You can contest it if you like, Vincent added. But I'd advise reviewing the full documentation package before you consider that. Outside that room, I didn't flinch. I didn't hover near the door. I didn't indulge the theater. I was in my office, lights low, already onboarding her replacement. A woman named Jordan, sharp as glass, soft-spoken, and terrifyingly competent, sat across from me, reviewing org charts and project timelines. I've heard stories, she said, but this place feels different already. It will be, I said simply. I didn't mention the meeting happening 2 doors down, didn't say Tessa's name, that part of the story was closing behind soundproof glass. At 9:22 a.m., Tessa walked past my office, box in hand, head down. She didn't knock, didn't speak. She paused just once, turned slightly like she might say something. I didn't look up, didn't give her the exit she wanted, because this wasn't about vengeance. It was about peace. And peace didn't wear a crown or demand applause. It just worked. Quietly, precisely. By 9:30, the only trace of her in the system was a deactivated badge and a silent Slack profile. I sipped my coffee. Hot this time, fresh, uncomplicated. The building exhaled. And for the first time in a long while, so did I. By 10:00 a.m., Tessa no longer existed inside the system. Her keycard failed at every scanner. Her email bounced. Her Slack avatar grayed out mid-sentence. She was in the middle of typing something in #team vibes when the system cut her loose like a ghost fading out of a photograph. No alerts, no so long message, just deletion, and the office didn't react. No cheers, no snide jokes, no high fives by the break room, just a stillness. A strange, delicate quiet that crept across cubicles and hallways like a first snowfall, soft, unsettling, and impossible to ignore. Chairs shifted. Keyboards clicked. The world went on, but slower, more careful, like everyone was waiting to see if this was real, if the tyrant had really been deposed without a war. People didn't speak her name. They didn't need to. They'd seen the new balance assert itself without drama, without shouting. That afternoon, I sent one final message to the full team. No bullet points. No jargon, just this: respect is not optional. That was it, not a threat, not a lecture. A reminder. One sentence carved in corporate stone. The replies came quietly, a few thumbs up, a silent row of heart emojis from names that had been quiet for too long, and one Slack DM that simply read, "Thank you, I can breathe again." I didn't reply, didn't need to. Instead, I walked downstairs. Same lobby, same time of day, same patch of sunlight bleeding through the high windows near reception. I stood in the very spot she'd blocked me that first morning back, the trench coat, the screaming, the security call, the performance. And now, no gatekeeper, no scene. Just the soft hum of the heater kicking on and the buzz of the badge scanner clicking green as I stepped inside like I belonged. I stood there a moment longer than necessary, holding my coffee like a small trophy. Outside, the city moved as it always had. Inside, the office was learning how to breathe again. The door I'd once been denied had become the quietest symbol of power in the building, not because I stormed through it, but because I waited. I listened. And I let her speak herself out of a job. I took a sip, let the bitterness settle behind my teeth, and thought, I didn't need to raise my voice. I just needed her to keep using hers. Thanks for joining the fun, you office survivors. Subscribe for more switch-flicking drama. Let's make your former coworkers sweat.